Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Eating at a Meeting. I'm Tracy. This is Rachel, and Jenny's coming. I just finished my presentation at MPI Minnesota, as you can see at the bottom here, and it was how do you build community through using food and beverage. And so I'm going to talk to Jenny and Rachel about what we just talked about and really how they, as a venue and a meeting planner, are doing that, creating community through food and beverage. So Rachel, as we're waiting for Jenny, and I know we should have waited for Jenny, but she's on stage saying goodbye. Tell us what you do and where you work.
So I am a general manager of a hotel restaurant / food and beverage director, they tell me. But we don't have a banquet manager, so I also do all that.
Oh, wow.
So I have 3 titles most of the time. So putting on any meeting events, that lands on me. So setting up, tearing down, making sure I have all the information that's needed. So that's my job.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And then here she is. All right. Let's get you. There we go. All right. So Jenny, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you. That's good. So tell everybody what you do.
I'm an event planning senior manager at National Co+op Grocers. So we're a cooperative with over 160 co-op member co-ops. So do the event planning and run our meeting and events team.
Okay, awesome. So I was just telling the audience that we just talked about my presentation, how do you build community through food? So I don't want to answer you the question of how did you like my presentation? But what was one thing that you took out of that presentation that you haven't thought about in community, in building community?
Yeah, so thinking about, we are focused on getting attendees there, building connection on content, but getting there. So we talk a lot about, the know before you go, but you brought up a good point with traveling on the airlines. We don't think about, what happens if if they are fed a meal on their, we're not there with them when they're traveling. So thinking about areas of that where we can improve on and communicate with.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
It's definitely for me, it was the areas that we can improve on, what we have to offer for those restrictions and make sure it's not just that packaged muffin that you were talking about, but make them feel like they're a part of the community.
Yeah. And I think, as a venue too, and I brought them some pastries from a Shift gluten-free pastry today. I thought they were really good.
Really good.
Yeah. But that's the thing is how can I want you to use it as a tool to grab new business.
Yes.
Right. And so when you think through that as as the general manager and the banquet captain and the food and beverage director, what are ways that you currently do that? And what are ways that you want to improve?
And so that gives me a great resource of bringing in those baked goods. Like when we have meeting breaks and they want snacks, it's we want pastries and we want fruit and I have gluten-free people. So what is my chef going to offer for pastries? He typically doesn't have an option, and now I have a resource for that. So just finding all that knowledge is wonderful.
Right. And the local one, so you're not actually using the pre-packaged.
And that's part of our brand is local.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's really important. Back up here. No, I don't have to lean in like that. Jenny, what about you? What do you, in thinking through this, how can we utilize this because I'm assuming that not all of your members come to all of your events. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have different departments.
Right. And so being able to provide that sense of community through food, do you think that would help some attendees?
Yeah, so, a lot of times they are, traveling, and we want them to be focused on that community and connection and that content. So having them know ahead of time that we are going to have a lot of food options with them for them is going to be really important. So I've been lucky to work with really great partners that are really good about labeling. They are creative too. So not just having, like you mentioned, something prepackaged, but bringing creativity. So leaning into some of our themes. We had a really great themed event last week, and our partner put together really great menus that had a lot of gluten-free, vegan options. They were warm, nutritious, healthy as well. So really looking at partners that are willing to work with us and be creative and really think about meals that really lean into building community, meals that will keep them energized. We don't want that post-lunch slump. We want foods that are easy to also eat and not so heavy, because they want to be able to network and connect with each other too. So with our membership, a lot of them are in, the stores, and sometimes the only times that they get professional development is at our conference. So it's a time to connect, and it's hard to sometimes connect when you're eating something really heavy and it's messy. So that's something I talk about with some of our chefs is, not making sure not only that it is dietary friendly, but we are really leaning into one of our outcomes and goals, which is about networking.
Okay. And have you had when you're choosing your venues, are you putting that information in your RFP? Are you talking about that at the site visit? Are you making decisions on which venues to choose based on what they say?
Yeah, so we have a pretty detailed RFP. So we'll have a tab just on food and beverage. So knowing like how much that they source organic, more about their labeling. We have sustainability, DEI goals also in our RFP process. So I actually will use that to narrow it down and have further conversations with the chef. But that is like a deal breaker, is if they're not willing to label all ingredients. So we do actually contract in our contract that we have to have about 15% organic. Everything has to be labeled. So we are lucky to work really great venues. What we run into is when we work with offsite venues. Okay. That's where some of the challenges lies. I now have started asking for the labeling ahead of time because we have a lot of dietary needs, and we want to make sure that everyone does have something that it's safe to eat. So I'm looking at labels. I actually bring backup labels now too, as well, just in case, just so we know everything that's in the meals. And then also afterwards, what happens to the food if there's leftovers? Is it being donated? Our staff are able to bring it. So knowing what's inside the food and what's happening afterwards.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So as the general manager, what do you currently do to entice Jenny to come to your event based on food, or come to your venue based on food and beverage?
That's wonderful. I think it's my servers right now, training them and having the knowledge so that they can sell the food to the customer, the guest. They have all the knowledge that they need to explain what allergens are in there, what the food tastes like, and it gives them an experience, and it makes people want to eat the food. Right. But having a menu that is for everybody. Right. Like food is a national language, right? Right. So everybody can come together and enjoy, but having a menu that gives all those dietary restrictions, but can be edited and has good flavor and makes everybody feel the same and not an outcast.
Yeah. Well, and I think the front of the house and the back of the house relationship is so important.
It really is. I am currently, to train my staff more, we're creating a spec book. So every ingredient that's in everything. So my staff will all get one. They can read, but having that knowledge, but if chef's not there or my sous chef's not there, having somebody there with the knowledge, like this spice is in this dish and it contains pistachios. So that's a nut, but just kimchi is a shellfish allergy, and we have a bibimbap bowl, and not a lot of people know that. So giving them what's in the dish, like each and every ingredient down to the spice, the sauce, all of it.
And that doesn't and like actually today when I went to Sift to pick up the pastries, they on the menu card, it said vegan, and it says free of gluten, soy, dairy, and something else. But then she pulled out the notebook that was a 3-ring binder notebook and said, here, you want to take a picture of all the ingredients in the dish. And I thought that was awesome that they had that. And that doesn't need to be put out you don't want the long list of items, on the buffet, but you could have that accessible.
To have the knowledge for the staff. Yes.
Exactly. And for them to know who to talk to.
Absolutely.
Right. Or how to do that. What is the one small change that planners and suppliers can make today to start improving food inclusion? From your side as a planner, tell me something as a planner, and then also is what you would like to see from venues.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. This year we actually started putting all our menus on our conference app. So it's exciting because we, can see all the items ahead of time. Attendees know what is going to be there. So I think getting those items ahead of time, makes me nervous when we don't have all ingredients or all the menus, like just a few days before. And we want that, weeks in advance so that we can, make any modifications, and we can also communicate it in our Know Before You Go webinar or communication so that they know what they're going to get when they're on site.
Right. Okay. I like that. And having that as an event app, and I said it in my presentation, not everybody's going to download that app.
Yes.
But at least it's there and you can direct them to that information. I like that. And what would you like to, well, I guess that would be what you would like venues to be able to provide for you.
I would say having conversations ahead of time. So even a few months out, you may not know about your full agenda, but being able to have those conversations early with your chef and your venue and your event manager is really important. So talking about here are our goals. We do need to have this type of dietary. With our menus, we do have to actually customize a lot of our menus. So we'll look at existing menus and then talk to the venue about how to make tweaks so that it is very inclusive. So keeping ongoing conversations, having check-ins as well, double checking about labeling ahead of time is really helpful. So I think that requires the venues and any chef to be able to have that earlier in that process.
Right. What about you what would you like planners what would help you as a venue?
To actually give me all the knowledge I need before the event. So I get BEOs a lot of times that don't have any allergies on it. So I assume there's nothing. So then my meeting contact, when I start the event, I say, there is no allergies, right? She's like, no, I have a list of stuff. Like this person's allergic to mushrooms and this person's vegan and this person. And yes, I have all my labels there, but it would have been nice to know not to have mushrooms in any of my dishes because I had 2 people that had a mushroom allergy. So just being more prepared and having all of that information, because I don't see the guest until they show up.
Right.
I don't communicate with the person planning until they show up. So the BEOs are super important for me to have all the knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you don't want me, like I'm doing an event next month and I have 1,200 attendees, but I have 125 people with dietary restrictions. Yeah. You don't want me to give them your phone number.
No.
But why not? Right?
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah. It is a lot.
Yeah.
So what resources and training have you, are you utilizing to train your staff? And Jenny, I mean, even on your team, because Jesse's on your team, right? What are you all using to educate the teams that you work with on what you do?
I'll say, well, a lot of your podcasts, Tracy, has been very helpful. So a plug for that. But you mentioned that certified training where anyone can serve safe. I'm like, I think we're gonna definitely check that out. But a lot of we have like some historical information, and then we document, what we learn along the way. We actually keep a lot of menus that we like and take a lot of pictures of good labeling so that we can share with a lot of new venues or chefs that we work with. So giving them examples, I think really helps just to make sure it's not all like, fried fatty food. We want it to be healthy. We want it to be creative. So giving them exactly what we like has been helpful. But yeah, a lot of your episodes have been very helpful. Learning about like cultural observances, learning just, different, food safety month, things that we're always learning. We have made mistakes, but we're always learning and trying to get better.
Yeah. There was something you just said that reminded me. Oh, never mind. Okay. So what are you said you're doing some training. Are you, everybody in your team has Serve Safe certification, right?
I have Serve Safe. My chef has Serve Safe, the sous chef, the AGM. It's getting the company to understand the importance of also all the staff having the Serve Safe, food handlers, all of it, even if it's not the major manager one, just they need to have all of that. So we're in the process of doing all of that right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so everybody should hopefully have that done by the end of next month.
Oh, awesome. That's fantastic. And I just recertified for my manager one. And I was impressed from, I guess I got my first one 10 years ago, And there's a little bit more information about food allergies in this one than it was 10 years ago. So I'm happy about that. But as Jenny was saying, ServSafe also has one that's specifically on allergens that you can take, and it's online and it's not expensive. And I think it's the last time I took it was 90 minutes, and I need to renew that one coming up, but I think I've taken it 4 times already. So, but it does need to be renewed, and I think it's a refresher.
It is a refresher, and there's always something new every year that
Right.
you take.
Yeah.
I mean, they last for 4 years, I think.
3 or 4.
3
I know
to
the
4
manager's
years.
5 years. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I took the manager one 2 years apart from the first time I took it, and there was new info in there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
There's always something to learn.
Yeah. And even, I mean, having a customer like Jenny coming into the hotel and saying, hey, this is how we want things done, that's a learning experience as well. Yeah.
Yes.
What have you, what properties, or not specific properties, but what have you found that have done really, really good things in around labeling and providing food options?
Yeah. So coincidentally, we were at a multi-year at a property outside Minnesota, and they actually had a food safety conference right before us, because when they showed me the label, because I'm used to having to work, with a lot of venues, but they showed me their labeling off, the bat with all, top allergens listed. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. So then they were able to make, we actually do individual labels with all ingredients labeled. And they also list if it's like dairy-free, gluten-free, and then the top 9 allergens. So that one like really stands out.
Yeah.
As well, because they were very detailed with that.
That's awesome.
So, which is like so appreciated.
Right. Yeah. Because it allows, because we're talking about community here, and I mean, it allows me to walk through the buffet and not have to go find Rachel, who I don't necessarily know who you are,
Right.
to find a meal.
Yeah.
Right.
And this venue too, I was actually very impressed, in addition to be very delicious. The chefs actually all stopped by pretty often. They checked the labeling themselves. They checked in with us. I usually don't see a lot of chefs, so that was really appreciated. Something we asked for too is if any attendees have questions about any of the ingredients, that they are able to talk to one of the chefs on site as well.
That's awesome. I did an event last month at the JW in Austin, and I'm going to say their name because I'm so happy with Chef Ham. But we had one gentleman who emailed me like 2 or 3 days before the event, and the subject line was halal. And then the message said, do you have any options? And I called Chef and I said, he sent me his halal certification for the chicken and showed me the packaging. And then on the last day, and he did meet with the guests when he arrived, but on the last day, the guests came up and said, Tracy, can I talk to Chef? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's wrong, right? And I said, is everything okay? He goes, I want to thank him face to face out of respect for how he fed me so well. And Chef didn't even know, and he had traveled all the way from India for this conference, which is like 20 hour flight, and I thought that was amazing that he wanted, out of respect, he wanted to thank the chef personally. And Chef, he's like, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to feed you. And you unfortunately don't get a lot of chefs that way.
Yeah. One of our Minnesota venues last week too, we mentioned like creativity, and we did have a Prince theme, being in Minnesota here. So not only was the menu just,
all
really wonderful. Yes, there was a lot of purple. They even, had, all the food labeling and incorporated our like icon, a Prince theme icon within the, so everything really blended together. So I was like, they were very creative with the menus, named it Prince songs too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was very creative. One of our Minnesota hotels here.
And that helps a lot too, because it's not just regular chafing dish and here and there and whatever. Rachel, how do you, when you're thinking through your menus and your training and things, how important is creating these experiences to create that sense of inclusion and community?
To me, it's super important. I want the repeat business for one, but it's more about the guest experience. Like I have found so much that hospitality is just getting from point A to B right now. It's just service. And I want the guest to have an experience. Things are expensive. So I get your time, and I don't want to just charge you an expensive meal. I want to give you an experience. I want to tell you about the history of the building. I want you to enjoy your food. I think that means a lot to people, and they come back if they have a good time. If they just, someone is just short with you and gets you from point A to B and gets you out the building, I'm probably not coming back.
Right.
If you're not engaged with your table, like you can see if a guest wants to spend time alone and talk because they're on a date, or you can see if they're traveling and they want somebody to talk to. So it's about giving them the experience, but also paying attention to that. I think that goes over very well.
And last night I ate at what's the restaurant in the hotel I was in? And whatever it was. And I sat at the bar because I was by myself, and both bartenders were fantastic. And they did hand me 3 different documents with alcohol on them. And I'm like, oh, I don't drink. And she was like, oh, I've got some great non-alcoholic options that I can whip up. What's your favorite thing? And I'm like, I like ginger, not a lot of sugar. And it just makes that experience so much better. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, and what's your favorite dish? And she's like, well, I like the trout because of this. And it really, the trout was really yummy, but it does play a role.
It really does. It really does. And if you're a non-drinker and you want something to drink and you're like, I don't drink, what can you get me? And they're like, oh, I got water. Yeah. I got pop. I got juice. I want you to have the same experience. So I've been creating mocktails. So the bartenders are still shaking the drinks the same. They're still garnishing them as if you were having a fancy cocktail. It should be that way.
Yeah. And it was in the nice tall glass. It had the mint and a piece of candied ginger on it. And it was really delicious. That experience is it's so important. And so you work for the co-op. And so a lot of those people, because of, you said the organics, that you want this percentage of being organic, your members are asking for that. Is that right?
Yeah. And I also think it should be really universal that, there isn't just one gluten-free option, one vegan option. There should be a variety of option for them to choose from. And then with what you mentioned with the mocktails, like it's hard if someone, doesn't drink and everybody else is drinking. So having that class you mentioned where they can stand with them and they can converse with them and have a conversation, be a community and not feel left out is important.
Right. And because you're an in-house planner, you also know your attendees and your mission very well. By doing that, what can you give to third-party planners or third-party association management firms about that sense of purpose and that sense of community that you have created with that? What should they learn from what you do already?
Yeah, so I think, we have, learned a lot throughout the way, just with as far as being inclusive, like hearing from the attendees. So getting that feedback and incorporate. So we'll get feedback maybe about a menu that maybe wasn't as popular, and then we know to look for that, but looking at making sure you have a variety of dietary options. And we try to make it as dietary friendly and then work with a chef if there's anything outside of that. So making it more more universal, right? So that there is a variety of option. And I think is really important. And then feel free to push back with the venue. Sometimes venues will be like, this is their menu. Like I mentioned, we've been lucky to work with really great partners that are willing to customize, but once in a while we may have offsite venue that is sort of stubborn and don't want to customize, and you do have to push back. You have to advocate for your attendees. Your attendees, you are seeing the menus when you're on site and off site, so making sure you have a variety of options is really important. So being that advocate for them.
Yeah, I like that term because and like you said, you don't see them until they show up.
Right.
And so you as the meeting planner have to be that advocate. And all right, there's a couple questions I want to bridge into that. I'm like, how do you, now one of them just went away from my brain, but being that advocate, your role, food and beverage is probably your number one expense. It is on my conference budgets. When did you start thinking about the food and beverage as that community builder aspect? And it may be because you work for a co-op association, but
even before I was in the Natural Foods Cooperative, working with other places, I have been to other events where actually I chose not to drink for health reasons a few years ago, but there was something I was at recently where they had everyone take drinks and I took a sip and didn't realize there was alcohol in it. So that is important. That was at an actual meeting planning conference. So, and then at the same event too, there was no labeling. So it's like, I don't know what is in these trays here. So I think I saw, very early on, food, they'll remember contact, they'll remember some individuals, but people really remember food. And that's like one of the basic needs. And, they want to be fed so that they can focus on building those relationships and learning. So really saw that really, early on. And I'm lucky to be in this position where we do advocate for our attendees and our staff to have really healthy food options at our events here. I often will go to like an offsite event really early just to make sure that labeling part is correct here. So bringing those labels just in case, because we, ultimately all want a really great event, and it can really take away from that if someone is not able to eat and participate there.
I appreciate all of that, because it really does play into how that experience that you mentioned. Right, Rachel, you grew up in the food and beverage industry. Your mom and dad owned a restaurant. So what did you learn from them early on about hospitality? And then how have things changed from when you were little to what you're doing now as general manager?
So my parents owned like a supper club. So you had your prime rib night, you had your barbecued rib night, special nights, but we had repeat business, and they were family. They were people that we hung out with in the community. We lived in a small town, but you would see them every Friday night for fish fry. I would babysit their kids. It was just, you
Total family.
with these people, and it was like an extended family that came to visit you. I don't always feel that passion is still there. Like I feel like people go out to eat and they do their thing. So it's me trying to give that back. Like trying to build a community and make you feel like it's your family's restaurant. Like I just watched the new Netflix movie, Nona's.
Oh, I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
It's so good.
Yeah.
But I love the concept, and just, it makes me miss my grandma's cooking and not having those recipes, but everybody goes there to be part of a family.
Right.
And just enjoy something. So bringing that back into hospitality.
And that's based on a true story,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. So Nona's, it's, and I think Vince Vaughn is in it. Okay. Yes. And it's about refugee grandmothers cooking, right? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that reminder.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you, one of the questions, Jenny, that I had for you a few minutes ago was like, you really work on your menus. So I want to talk about pricing real quick, because pricing, I said it's food and beverage is probably our number one expense, but a lot of planners negotiate that 10% discount. Do you do that, or because a lot of your menus are customized, do you just figure out your budget and say, this is what I've got for each food function, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, so multi-agreement, we do put in a percentage, no more than this percentage increase over time, because we do do multi-year conference, but I do figure out a budget and have them work with it to make sure we include everything. Sometimes I know that we'll have a few added fees or increases because they have to source from somewhere else. But we really try to have them source as much local as possible, bring a lot more like plant-based things as well to help as well. But I'm hoping, too, as we're being more mindful of what is in our food, that will get better with like the pricing.
Right. Yeah.
More, more, or having more dietary menus.
Right. Now, how do you manage, because one of the questions we did we've got a comment here. Let's do this comment real quick first. All right. I don't know what the Q means in this jar, but thanks for being here. Let us know what you mean, and we'll address that. But, one of the questions that we had before the conference, we did a networking, what did you call it? A shuffle?
Yeah, shipwreck shuffle.
So I gave them questions around food and beverage. And one was, how do you make sure, or you verify the things that you're doing are being done? So how do you verify them ordering all of your organic meals, and, what are your steps in place? And then what would you do to help provide, to confirm to them, hey, we did do this. And it's kind of like that chef sending you the certification for the halal chickens, but
Yeah, having conversations, weeks, months in advance. We're working on the initial menu ahead of time, working through tweaks. So having the conversation of where are you sourcing these items. I love when they share, like they got it from their gardens on the rooftop. I love when they can share that kind of information. Right. So, and I seeing the labeling ahead of time and their BOs also helps to just to verify where everything is coming from. So we have that in our contracts and our BOs about the labeling. And then they do write in, this percent has to be locally sourced or organic.
How big is your conference?
So I'll have ones, they're usually about that 180 range. And then we have a couple that are in the 700 range.
Okay. So that's a lot of food being ordered, right? Yeah.
And something too, we work, with them, food is important, but also sustainability too. So we'll talk to them about making sure things are maybe more bite-sized so that there's not a lot of waste. With food too, we try to have as much actually like dishware or compostable. So making sure that we are talking about that food waste as well, because we're trying to reduce that, of course.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And what things can you provide to the planners to show what you're doing?
Right. So we talked about like the locally sourced items. That's a huge thing. So we have a list of all of our locally sourced vendors on our menu, or it's in the food descriptions.
Okay.
But I can also always supply invoicing and labels and all of that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have guidelines of your sourcing of what you're looking for to put in your food?
We do. Hotel Indigo brand is like a boutique brand that has to be locally sourced by a certain percentage. I can't remember offhand what it is, but having organic ingredients and using local vendors down to where your coffee comes from. So,
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So some rapid fire questions here. What is the best catered meal that you've ever had?
I've had some really good evening event venues that just were creative, but I love when they can bring some of different cultural and they show the significance meaning behind some of the food items and what it means to the culture. So there's a few that have stand out that way. Just because it was a different experience, we get a chance to try out different cultural cuisines. I think that has stood out to me. And then you see like why it's important. So I think about like maybe some of the Asian meals around Lunar New Year. Some of these symbolizes and supposed to attract for good fortune and wealth. So bringing some of that history and that cultural is really important.
Oh, I like
and
that.
It stands out.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't get to go to a lot of meetings. I'm always working now. So then I get the cold food afterwards. But there is an event I went to. It was a charity golf tournament here in Minnesota for a company that I worked at prior. But that was the cultural thing. There was food from all around the world is what they tried to do. So it was getting to try things I normally wouldn't try and learning that I actually like things that I never would give a chance. So that was probably my best catered meal.
Right. Okay. And if you were on a deserted island and you only had one food to eat, what would it be?
Oh, I was like desserts. Like we're always running around. We're so busy, but it's nice to be able to grab those, desserts and just so much variety. A lot of dietary friendly ones that you can really see all the creativity behind it. And so many different dessert options. I would say desserts.
Okay. All right. What about you, Rachel?
Pastas. Give me all the pasta.
Do you have a sauce that you like on your pasta?
Yeah. Love all pasta. It doesn't matter. It can be a cold pasta. It can be a lasagna. It can be a spicy pasta sauce. That could be my meal every single day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's just too much pasta.
I know. I can't do it.
Yeah,
Can't do it, but I probably.
You probably
Yes. My body would do.
Okay. So what is one thing that you want to see as food and beverage goes forward? What do you want to see in catered food functions?
Really good labeling and just variety of options for different dietary needs.
Okay.
Those are two things that really stand out. And I think we continue to advocate and push for.
Okay. Rachel?
Having all the knowledge I need to have a successful event. The labeling, but the knowledge to write the labels.
Right.
That I need. So
Okay. And the tools to do that too, because
Yeah.
I mean, we still all use Excel,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
To manage all of this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I was sending menus to a chef the other day, or just CSM, and I said, "Can you read Google Docs?" Because I'm like, that's very user friendly, and then we can communicate back and forth. But nope, Google Docs are banned,
Yes.
from some corporate, so you can't do
Yeah.
that. So you literally do have to rely on Excel
Mhm.
to manage that. So it would be nice if it was easier, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
There's got to be some kind of software.
Right, exactly. I am talking tomorrow to a gentleman, this co-founder and CEO of Galley. And you need to go out, introduce you to them.
Please.
And it is a back-end software program that can help manage food waste as well as allergens,
Okay.
and dietary restrictions. So, okay, so MPI, I want to just, because we're at MPI Minnesota, thank you very much for having me.
Yes. Thank you for being here.
So tell us about MPI Minnesota a little bit so people know what that is and maybe you can get a new member.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Minnesota chapter. I think we're just over like 240 members
Nice.
based in Minnesota here. So we have been working a lot on inclusion, so neuro inclusion. We're working on food and beverage. So bringing really different topics throughout the year. I know we've talked about working with different generations. So really bringing in great content to both planners and suppliers here.
Mhm.
So I think the timing worked out really great with food safety and celiac awareness month
Mhm, mhm.
this month
Yep.
here.
Yeah, food allergy.
Yeah, food
Yeah,
allergy.
food allergy. Food
Yeah.
safety, I think.
Food allergy. I work with
Yeah.
food safety. Summer topic for that for
Yeah.
upcoming June event.
And that's a whole nother.
Yes,
Yes.
very important as
Yes.
well here. So yeah, over 240 members. We hold
Yeah.
really great events and education and membership events throughout the year as well.
Awesome. Very cool. And Rachel, have you been a member?
This is my first meeting.
Oh, wow.
I got invited by one of the members, Katie, and she's like, "Can you also do this podcast?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have a choice." She's like, "I'm signing you up. You're coming." And I was like, "Okay." So, but I really enjoyed it. It's very knowledgeable. It's fun to meet a lot of people that are doing the same thing that you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Okay, cool. All right. Well, is there, I will tag them on LinkedIn later on. And so you can reach Rachel and Jenny if you want to reach out to them and find out what they're doing. But ladies, I am so appreciative of you for joining me today. And any last thoughts on food and beverage in community?
No, I mean, I think just continue to what you shared, use food, just a way to really does build community.
Mhm.
It really brings people together. So just keeping that in mind.
Okay.
yeah, and the industry is always evolving. So stay on top of all the changes, learn all the new techniques.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. I will actually be online tomorrow as well. Again, it's at 12 o'clock Eastern, and talking about software. And then next week, actually, I'm talking to a woman from the UK who's neurodivergent, and we're talking about food and beverage to help them feel safer and more included at events too. So until then, stay safe and eat well. Thanks.